Hi, everyone. Here to talk about censorship, what's happening at Spotify with artists pulling their albums because of misinformation, and Brene Brown pausing her podcast because of potential misinformation. She did release a statement today on her social media, and she says both censorship and misinformation are threats to public health and democracy. I think it's interesting that, she writes this post explaining that, she's not in support of censorship whatsoever. But here she implies that misinformation is out there. It's not the information that she agrees with. So she's still putting herself in the position of the information. And I guess when I read her post, the tone of her post, the intention of that post, it didn't quite sit with me. And one of the questions that came up was, what is a healthy response to potential misinformation? What is a healthy response? Because we have people here, there are 8 million artists on Spotify, 8 million artists. And we don't like what one person has done or a few people have done. So now we withhold, and in a sense, retracting, punishing, as an attempt on some of these artists to try to censor what's happening on this platform that supports all art, all free speech. And so when we do something like that and we kind of try to force an organization based on our own participation, that's concerning. I don't think that takes a whole lot of vulnerability to want to try to shut something down or even, in a sense, create a threat by withholding. I think what feels healthy is a straightforward approach where you are in communication. Hey, audience, I'm concerned about potential misinformation. What do you think? What about dealing with the source of what you feel uncomfortable with? And instead of attacking a platform or a third party or trying to force them or force anyone under what you think is the correct information, or, having a conversation first. If even writing a letter, an open letter to Spotify, to Joe Rogan, having a conversation, be willing to engage. But I think hiding, I just thought it was interesting too, that she chose to do this with first a very ambiguous message. I will be pausing my podcast until further notice. And then almost attacking her audience for assuming what her position was, right? Without really clearly communicating what her intention was for pausing the podcast. And then I thought it was interesting that Joe came on video and he was just himself. It looked like he was out for a walk or something. And he just was so clear about what the intention of his podcast is. It's to have those conversations with all different perspectives. And I think this willingness, this is meditation, the willingness to allow and permit all different voices and expressions, all of creation. This is what meditation shows us. And I think that when we are talking about vulnerability or authenticity, something I would want to ask Brene, a coaching question, is what is authenticity? How does authenticity and vulnerability thrive? What is the true expression of that? Can someone feel safe enough to be vulnerable under the threat of censorship or being silenced? No. I mean, it's becomes increasingly more difficult. And right now there's only one narrative that's allowed to happen. And I think the degree of censorship at this point has become deeply concerning. So, what comes up in you? Like you individually, me, Brene Brown, what comes up in you when someone says something that you don't agree with? What is that feeling? Because right now, this misinformation is triggering people to the highest level, which is very interesting. It's like, whoa, guys, let's take a moment to pause and sit with our own insecurities. That insecurity, that fear of death, the fear that other people could get hurt from the misinformation. Take a moment to breathe before we try to attack or force or try to make something else happen. Being with these feelings and really conveying our true intention and, what is the healthy approach to censorship? Why not have a conversation? Why not be transparent? Why not be open? Why not have a conversation with somebody like Joe Rogan directly? If that's who your concern is with, I just think it's interesting that artists want to pull from a platform that supports 8 million other artists. And once we start cherry picking, you're the truth. I guess what I want to end with is, who gets to say what is misinformation? Who gets to say what is information and why? Who are we making God? And to really question that, whether you believe in vaccinations or not really doesn't matter. But are you willing to create the space where other people can have their own perspective from their own experience, their own wisdom, their own intuition, and respect that? And respect that maybe they do want that extra information to make an educated choice.